Welcome to another episode of the Silver and BlackCast. It's your brother Marquise, boy Uncle Rocco back over there, ready to have a great talk today after a Raider win. What? 2013 win over the New England Patriots. I know you guys are all feeling good out there. The air is a little sweeter. Your chest is out a little bit more today because the Raiders took care of business across country at the 10 a.m. time zone. So we're going to break down some of the great plays, what happened in that game today, some of our ballers, some areas of concern, and of course, your questions on fourth down. So we're going to get this thing started right now. So smash that like and subscribe button and become part of that Silver and BlackCast family. Let's get it today, Rocco. How you feeling?
Victory Monday, baby. It's the best feeling in the world.
Yes,
best feeling in the world.
Absolutely is. So this is one of these fun podcasts because we get to talk about how great our team is, and no one can tell us otherwise. There's no stats to refute it. No one can tell you that the Raiders are not the best because we are one of the few 16 undefeated teams still in the NFL today. So I take that back. Make it 15 teams because the Bears and the Vikings still have not played yet today. So we are excited to break down this game. There were so many good things, so many great plays, so many positive performances from a lot of players on this team. So before we get into the defensive side of the ball, Rocco, does anything stand out to you outside of the players?
I just thought we won in impressive fashion. I thought we looked sharp for week one. Well coached, executed well. All three phases contributed, played complementary football through all four quarters. When we had them down, was able to put them away late in the game. Very encouraging. I thought it was very impressive.
Absolutely. I'd like to, before we get into the individual performances, I really want to give hats off to the coaching staffs. I thought Chip Kelly had a great game plan. And what I really liked, and it's not fair to say, really, we say this all the time from a fan standpoint. We feel like, hey, you go into halftime, you should see some adjustments happening. And look, we know that these coaches work really hard. And whatever regime it was, whether it was AP, John Gruden, Josh McDaniels, I'm sure they all went into halftime and made adjustments. But this first game, there was noticeable changes that were positive adjustments made at halftime. The team came out on both sides of the ball, and it was a different football team than we saw in that second quarter. And so I don't know if it's just, hey, they changed things up drastically, or if these guys just got a little bit more comfortable. They'll never let us know for sure what happened in that locker room. But the team responded. So hats off to all those coaches, Patrick Graham, Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, obviously, and all their assistants to go along with that.
I agree. Yeah, I thought they did a really good job. I loved watching the interaction on the sideline between Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham, figuring out what to do on defense. The TV crew picked up a lot of that. I thought that was interesting. And I thought Chip Kelly called a great game. I thought second half, if you're talking about adjustments, I thought he went heavy with the play action pass on first down. Pushed the ball down the field, and we were able to generate a good amount of explosive plays. That's the biggest adjustment to me, and it was very effective.
Absolutely. So let's start by breaking down this game a little bit. Talk about some of these defensive numbers. Some of the stats that stood out to me was Raiders gave up 60 rushing yards. Forced the Patriots into being 4 for 14 for third downs, only gave up 336 total yards. Obviously, the interception, obviously the 3 sacks to go along with that. And, those are winning numbers. When you don't allow a team to come and run the ball, especially when you have a sloppy, rainy day like they had to play in, and you force the team to throw the ball in those kind of conditions, you give yourself an opportunity to win. Not everybody has Geno Smith back there slinging it for 362 yards. These guys had to have a young quarterback with young receivers, and you force them into a difficult situation by being able to really stop that run and not letting guys like Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson get involved.
Yeah, I thought one of the keys was coming into the game was stopping the run, right? And we did it. Did a good job against their traditional running game, and I really thought one of the keys would be to stop the running game as far as Drake May. He's a good athlete. He likes to run, and he didn't really hurt us with his legs at all. So then kind of turned into a one-dimensional attack against us, and they threw for some yards, and he racked up, I don't know, 275, 276, whatever it was. Some of that actually came late when we were protecting a 2-score lead. But we kept everything in front of him. The pass rush started really disrupting him, especially in the second half. And the defense played really well. 13 points speaks for itself.
So as you see on the screen right now, you see a sack here by Malcolm Kuntz, one of our 3 sacks of the day. And obviously that was a big play for us, not because we ended up with the fumble recovery here, but because we wanted to see Malcolm Kuntz be able to show that same spark that he had at the end of 2023 before he tore his ACL at the beginning of 2024. So what does that sack mean to you, Rocco?
It's exactly what I expected out of him. I think, yeah, Carroll talked the first few weeks of camp. Maybe he was a little slow, getting coming off that injury, getting back to being himself. But he came on strong late in training camp, and here we are, week 1, and there he is with a strip sack. That's huge for our defense. If he could be that other rusher on the edge opposite Max, that's going to give the defense fits with obviously, Wilson getting better and better as well, and Adam Butler doing all the dirty work. It's huge.
Absolutely. Another big play on those stats is obviously turnovers. And unfortunately, we weren't able to pick up that turnover. And that's one thing we need to get better. We have to be able to get those fumble recoveries. Last year, this team didn't force enough turnovers. We only had 10 interceptions on the season. But we started this year off with a pick, as you can see here with Isaiah Palabao coming here and making the catch, which we see so many times DBs drop balls. Now that pick would have never happened if you don't watch here Max Crosby coming here on a stunt and putting his body right in the chest of Drake May, forcing him to throw the ball a little earlier than maybe wanted to, let it sail on him, and then Isaiah Palomalo cleans it up. And those are the type of plays we need to see more frequently out of that defensive line.
1000%. Max created havoc. That's a perfect example. The rush and the coverage working together. He forces the errant throw, and Palomalo makes a play on the ball. It's not, the ball floated, but it wasn't like it just landed in his lap either. He had to go get that. It wasn't the easiest catch. I've talked about on this podcast, I feel like he's a playmaker. I think he's going to be a difference maker at that safety position. I feel like he's just one of those guys, like at that safety position, some of those guys are just kind of a magnet for the ball. And I think he's one of those guys, and he's off to a great start.
Yeah, you are the president of the Isaiah Palomalo fan club here, and Rocco's been chanting his name, cheering since year 2, and it took a couple years for him to get an opportunity, but now here he is, and he's been a playmaker ever since. But it's important because not only for the overall health of this team to be able to get turnovers, but I thought that was a big interception in this game. That kind of sparked the whole onslaught that would ensue the rest of this game. The defense was kind of on its heels, and because of that play, I think the confidence, the air got put back in the stadium, and we talked last podcast about having a chip on your shoulder, having confidence, and there is an element of here we go again when you have players that have been on the team for a long time, been on losing teams, and it could have easily in years past just continued to snowball, but because Max and Isaiah Palomalo and the rest of that defense does what they're supposed to do and makes the play, it kind of stops everything that happens. It's kind of similar. You might even go back to the Gardner Minshew interception in Denver. The game started off great. We were up 10-0, about to be up 17-0. Minshew makes a huge mistake, throws an interception, gets taken back. Instead of being 17-0, it's 10-7, and the team really never recovered, never made that big play to get back in the game. Well, this game was similar. We got off to a quick start. We were kicking, we were firing on all cylinders, and then all of a sudden we just stalled out. And then the Patriots got momentum, and they were rolling, and then finally, Palomalo, Crosby, the rest of that defense makes a play, and now this defense gets the offense juiced up, and then we go right down and score, and then the rest of the game is history. And I think plays like that, that Uncle Mo is so important in these games, especially when you're on the road.
I agree completely. It was definitely a momentum changer. You're down 10-7 at the half. They get the ball first. I felt like in the first half, the defense was a little bit bend but don't break. Effectively enough. I mean, you're sitting there, they only have 10 points at the half. It was effective enough, but, you get that pick and then we go down and score. We have all the momentum, and that from that point on, the defense really imposed their will. Patriots did pretty much nothing after that until, the very end. They got down there to kick a field goal when we're protecting a 2-score lead late, playing clock.
Absolutely. And it's just the way this defense is working together. We got a lot of that, like you said, of pressures and pressure in the second half, more so in the first half. And I think that was kind of the key to this. If you look at our defensive line pressure numbers, there were some that were very impressive. You had Max Crosby with 6 pressures, a sack, 2 hits, and it had a 15.4% win percentage on his rush. These stats are courtesy of Tristan Kuhn, who's someone who does a great job with this. Adam Butler, 6 pressures, a QB hit, and also a high win percentage. Malcolm Kuntz, 4 pressures, a sack, a forced fumble, a hit, and a 13.8% win percentage. Anytime you're getting win percentages over 10 to 12%, then you're doing a great job. You're putting pressure on that quarterback. We had our boy Thomas Booker, 2 pressures, a hit, and 13.3% win percentage. Then players playing inside with Tyree and Lalu. Tyree had 2 pressures, a sack, a hit, and a 5.4% win percentage, and Lalu had a pressure, a sack, and a 4.8% win percentage. So that defensive line was causing a little bit of havoc, especially in that second half. And we didn't need to blitz much, which is always a pleasure and good for the secondary. Although he did pick his moments, we did see Jamal Adams flying in there at times. And he's slithery, and he got close a couple times as well. But that defensive line in the second half really started to settle in and cause problems for Drake May.
I agree, and I would just point out again, they were creating havoc, but in a disciplined fashion. It wasn't, we're screaming off the edge, and leaving lanes for him to take off and hurt us with his legs. It was a very coordinated rush with good discipline, and we kept him in that pocket, and when we did, we got to him.
Absolutely. So now we're going to move over to the offensive side. The offense was explosive. They had 21 first downs, 389 yards. They did give up 4 sacks. Most of that was in the first half, had some problems with some stunts. We'll talk about it later when we discuss some of the areas concerned. And spoiler alert, part of that will be the offensive line. But we also had, to go along with that, 56 yards rushing will also go along in that segment. But the 362 passing yards by Geno Smith, first quarterback, most passing yards by a Raider quarterback in a debut ever. Also, you're talking about when you see his passing chart here, Rocco, and I'll let you talk about this real quick because you love passing charts. But on top of that, you had earlier on in an episode in a podcast we had a couple weeks ago when you talked about how much is being undersold that Geno Smith it will provide the Raiders with competent quarterback play, something they have not had for a while. Do you want to look at this chart and tell me what you see? How does that prove what you were talking about?
It's just very balanced, very balanced in where we attack the field, very balanced with using all our different weapons and pushing the ball down the field. He was outstanding. Yeah, I spoke about it. It's the ultimate team game, but the quarterback is the most important player on the team. And to bring in Geno Smith with the quarterback play we've had the last 3 seasons in particular. Obviously, you could go further back than that, but especially the last 3 seasons, it was abysmal. And I was just making the point before the season, while everyone understands it's an upgrade, it was undersold on what a huge upgrade it actually was. And I thought you saw that yesterday. Geno Smith was absolutely outstanding.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about Geno a little bit more in the next segment. I'm spoiling this podcast all over the place, but he was definitely the catalyst for this victory for the Raiders. Some of the other things we want to talk about that before we move on to our second down will be just some of the rookie snap counts. I thought and snap counts overall. I'll start with the rookies. Rocco, I'll let you take the rest of the team. Anything that stood out to you? But Jeanty played 54 snaps, which could be expected. Bech only played 4 offensive snaps. Not a huge surprise. I was hoping maybe he'd get a few more snaps, especially with Amari Cooper retiring. He did get a nice catch in there with one of those 4 snaps, and hopefully he continues to build a bigger opportunity for himself, carve out a more defined role. Darian Porter started this offseason as a starter at defensive back, played 0 defensive snaps. Now, part of that might have been the play of Caillou Blue Kelly, which we'll again talk about. But it was a little surprising to see that he did not even rotate in there at all last game. We have Dante Thornton, who played 38 snaps on offense. We had Tonka Hemingway, our 4th-round defensive lineman, played 11 snaps on defense, and Rogers, Grant, and Pegues all were inactive as well. Let's talk about some of the vets. Any of the vet snap count that might have stood out to you, Rocco?
Max Crosby playing 100% of the snaps. What else is new?
That guy's incredible, man. It's incredible.
So much heart. Love that guy.
And never seems tired.
Love that guy so much. Yeah, 100% of the snaps, playing 100 miles an hour every single one of those snaps. I don't know. Maybe the one thing.
I think that dude. I think he's on cocaine. He's got to do cocaine, man.
Don't say that. He's gonna get a drug test tomorrow. Thanks. Probably the only thing I would say that stood out was I saw Terrell Edmonds only came in for 1 snap. I don't think we used that. I could be wrong, but I don't believe we used Chin in that nickel role much, if at all, that we were hearing so much about coming into the season. Holmes played a good amount of snaps. And I think we actually had a lot of 3 linebacker alignments in the game. I think Jamal Adams was kind of rotating in along with Pratt and White, who I believe, I want to say Pratt and White both played 100% of the snaps, I believe. Yeah. So that's the one thing that stood out to me, other than, you spoke about the rookies.
Yeah, I think that Terrell Edmonds playing only 1 snap, like you said, was really telling. It really meant that, and again, I didn't get to see all the snap counts, but I would assume that meant that Darnay Holmes might have played a little bit more snaps than I anticipated playing in the slot.
He did,
and that poses good news because I think a lot of Raider Nation was under the impression that Jeremy Chinn was going to have to play the big nickel role often because of lack of production out of the nickel cornerback spot, and kind of like, hey, this is our best option. We're going to throw him there. If Darnay Holmes is able to lock down that spot and play it well, then that allows Jeremy Chinn to be used as a chess piece, not as a necessity, which I think is huge for that defense and allows you to be more flexible and adjust to what the offense is doing as opposed to being so limited.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think also the linebackers held up well in coverage. I thought, Henry had some catches.
Oh, he had one incredible catch.
Well, that's what I was going to get at. I think, the one incredible catch, maybe 1 or 2 others, the coverage was not bad at all. the type of plays he hurt us on were, the type of plays you just got to tip your cap to the other team. I thought the linebackers really, I thought White and Pratt were outstanding, and Adams was really good too. But they also, some might think that coverage would be a weakness possibly for White and Pratt. It wasn't yesterday.
Absolutely. They both played well, and we'll get into some of that exciting play that they had as we keep going in this pod. Last thing we'll talk about in first down will be the injury report. Unfortunately, with along with every game, there's always going to be your bangs and bruises that these guys get, these nicks. We have two starters that with I don't want to say significant injuries, but injuries to monitor is the best way to put it. I think Pete Carroll had a press conference today, and he referred to it, said that both those guys are tough, and they're going to do everything they can to be out there on Monday. So the fact that's the thought process, that they can be out there on Monday, lets you know that the injuries are not thought to be super severe, I guess. Elandon Roberts is with a sprained elbow. He had to be taken out of the game early in the first quarter and replaced by Tyler Eichenberg, who did a really good, admirable job while Rob was out. And then Brock Bowers got hurt late in the game with a knee, tweaked his knee a little bit. And from what all things that have been said, that he could have gone back in the game if the team really felt like they needed him. He wanted to go back in the game. So that's always good news, because guys like those guys are not – we don't have the luxury of losing those two guys.
Yeah. No, it was a good breakdown. Knock on wood, it sounds like it shouldn't be too bad, especially in Bowers' case. We'll get Alex Guerrero to work with them. They'll be perfectly fine in no time.
Alex Guerrero is going to be the team MVP by the end of this season. All right, that takes us to second down, guys. We're going to talk about the ballers alert. Who was out there balling crazy? And I'll let you start this one off with the easy answer. Go ahead, Rocco.
I mean, Geno Smith, obviously, right?
Geno.
He was. I don't know what else to say. He was outstanding. I liked his. Early in the game. I mean, we got off to a hot start, but he had the interception. I don't even think it was an egregious interception. Maybe it was a little over aggressive and didn't put the ball exactly where he wanted to give Bowers a chance. But in any case, early interception, quite a bit of pressure in the first half, and he never flinched. He just kept throwing strike after strike after strike. I like his aggressiveness, looking to push the ball down the field, and he just is. Like Pete Carroll said, this isn't a breakout game. This is who he is, and he is extremely accurate. He has great arm talent, and that was on full display yesterday. He was outstanding.
Yeah, he was terrific. I mean, you see some of these clips that are going on, and these things are darts. I mean, this pass right here to Jakobi Meyers, that might be, no exaggeration, one of the best 10 throws I've ever seen in my life. I mean, there's some great throws, but I'm telling you right now, this throw right here, how that throw, like the video, you can't even see how the ball got through. The window was so tight and so fast. And I don't even know how Jakobi Meyers caught it. I mean, this is a laser, man. This is it. If I'm Gruden, man, I'm like, that's a laser, man. It is crazy. Geno went out there and he threw the ball all over the yard. We saw on the pass chart. He's not going to nickel and dime you. He's taking dollars and taking everything. He's putting all his chips in. He's going to throw the ball deep. He's going to give you a chance. And we saw it throughout the entire game, especially on this last play, which you see right here, that almost iced the game right here, 3rd and 20, and you just launch that thing to Dante Thornton. And it's the guy was incredible. You alluded to the interception earlier, but you know what? It comes with having a gunslinging quarterback, and this guy she's shown Raidernation really quick what competent play looks like for a quarterback, and it's amazing the difference, because quarterback play we've had over the last 3 years, we don't win that game.
That's the understatement of the century. Top 10 throw you ever seen might be the overstatement of the century. That was the understatement of the century.
Brother, that I'm telling you. Listen, that was a great throw, man.
Oh, no doubt about it.
That was a great throw, brother.
And you have to work on your Gruden impersonation too.
Hey, you know what? Me and Gruden, man. We work hard together, man. You know, so but Geno Smith, obviously, he was terrific. Another guy that was great, Jakobi Meyers. Jakobi Meyers, 97 yards in his homecoming game or his revenge game towards the Patriots, who gave him his start. Was there for 4 years before he came to the Raiders. He admitted earlier how he was disappointed and felt disrespected when the Patriots decided to sign Juju Smith-Schuster for the same exact deal that the Raiders gave Jakobi. And Jakobi's been making them pay ever since. And he had an opportunity to not only show the Patriots what they're missing out on, but also show the Raiders what they will be missing out on if they don't choose to re-sign that guy. So good for Jakobi. He had a heck of a game.
Yeah, he was so good. And yeah, as you said, I feel like he deserves so much credit in this day and age to be unhappy with his contract situation. Doesn't miss a practice, doesn't affect his attitude at all, doesn't affect his performance at all. He's making catch after catch, tough catches over the middle. I love the guy. He was awesome yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't have a Ballers Report without talking about the natural himself, Brock Bowers. That guy's been a stud ever since he stepped on a football field. Whether it's Georgia, whether it's the NFL, he just dominates from day one. He had a 5-catch, 103-yard day. And, you know, it's interesting. I'm be the first one to say that I was quick to make comments that I think that Brock Bowers will be better, more impactful, but I think his numbers will probably slightly go down because of all the weapons on the field, and they may over the course of the year. But you know what? From game one, it did not look that way.
He's one of, if not the best tight end in the league. I mean, I don't know what else I could say other than that. I would like to just point out Michael Mayer. You know,
yes.
Really, played well throughout the game, but really especially stepping up after Bowers was out injured. Made an outstanding catch on the 4th down. Had another tough catch in traffic near the goal line. It's just great to see him back, healthy, and playing up to his potential. Like Pete Carroll said, we don't have a number 1 and a number 2 tight end. We have two ones.
Yeah, you see this clip right here with the Michael Mayer, that 4th down play that you were talking about. I mean, this is a 1-score game 9 minutes ago. If you miss it on 4th down, then Patriots get the ball almost at midfield. So, I mean, this is a huge point of the game. And Michael Mayer just steps up and goes up to the 10th floor and gets the ball. And what a play also by Geno to extend it. Obviously, the play was drawn up, as you can see, to try to get Jeanty out there. And Michael Mayer that guy is a forgotten man, but Chip Kelly's given him an opportunity. He's got quarterback play. He's in a good place mentally. And I think he's going to have a heck of a year. I think he had 4 catches, around 48 yards last night. And I don't know if he's going to consistently get that week in and week out. But, like you said, he's a legitimate number 1 tight end. And he's a weapon that we have to continue to keep engaged in the offense.
1,000%.
Now, a couple other guys I definitely want to talk about because we didn't mention most of them, but they also had really nice games. And it goes along with your point that Geno Smith was spreading the ball around. And that's Dante Thornton and Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker had 2 catches, 52 yards. Started the game off with a 26-yard touchdown. Beautiful throw. And then also we've seen the Dante Thornton catch that kind of iced the game. A big play for a rookie. And it wasn't an easy catch. Not an easy catch here as he's sliding down and making the grab. So both those guys also showed up and played well.
Absolutely. Not an easy catch. Another understatement. No, it was a great catch. He torched the corner with a double move. Geno I think he saw a cornerback blitz coming from the other side, so he rolled a little to try to buy himself a little time. Didn't put the ball exactly where he wanted, and Thornton makes a great catch. This first touchdown here, I mean, Trey Tucker's 5 yards open. I believe they blitzed here. Yeah, you see, they bring a lot of extra rushers. We pick it up well. Geno kind of backpedaling a little bit, buy a little extra time. Tucker's got one-on-one, and he torched the corner, and Geno hit him in stride. So, yeah, not only did they contributed with big plays down the field, bringing that speed, Al Davis element to the offense.
And, it's interesting. That goes along to show the coaching as well. The guys in the locker room said in their media scrum, multiple players talked about how they were prepared for this blitz package right here. And the teams worked on that blitz package, and Chip Kelly called the play at the right time because they picked up that blitz, and boom, when teams are over aggressive, if you have the right answer for them, you're going to make them pay, and the Raiders did right there. So hats off to Chip Kelly and his offensive staff. Hats off to the players being able to execute and be in the preparation that went into that, because it looks like it's an easy, hey, he just blew past his man and Geno hit a wide open receiver. But there's a lot more than goes into those type of plays. And a lot of times you're real close to having those kind of plays that it just don't work out. That time it did because the team was so prepared for that. Let's move on to the defensive side with some of the ballers on the defensive side. We're going to start off. We'll start off with your boy, Isaiah Palomau.
Yeah, we already talked about, that interception was a big momentum changer. He had another excellent play. I believe we brought a blitz, and May got rid of it hot to the running back in the flat, and it was just Palomau and the running back all alone, and he comes up, makes a big hit, takes him down for a loss. Those are the two splash plays, but I would also just say, we kept everything in front of us all game long.
Yes.
No busts, no coverage breakdowns. So good communication, good discipline. He's the free safety back there. A lot of that's his responsibility. I'm the president of his fan club, and I think I'm starting to look pretty smart.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. He had 7 tackles, the interception, the big hit. And again, he brought that energy. He brought that. His play helped the momentum come back to the Raiders, and the fire and the passion come back on that sideline. And that can't be. Those are intangibles that you can't quantify. But he played great. He balled out. Another one I want to talk about is a guy who probably Raider Nation didn't know anything about until about maybe days of training camp, and that is Caillou Blue Kelly. And he had a great game. Look, the interesting thing about him is, when you're a cornerback and you see a guy making tackles, you keep saying to yourself, man, this guy keeps getting open. He's not guarding anybody, blah, 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 blah. But that's not the case at all. I mean, Caillou Blue Kelly, that guy was, there was a stat they gave out that he gave out only 1.9 yards of separation the entire game. I averaged 1.9 yards. So guys couldn't get more than 5 feet away from this guy for the entire game. He also, they said Drake May was 1 for 3, 56.3 QB rating when targeting Caillou Blue Kelly. So the guy played really well. On top of that, he tackled well. He tackled well. He finished off the plays when the guys did get the catch or anybody was near him. He finished off the plays with tackles. He ended up with 9 tackles to go along with that. So I thought he was terrific. I thought he played like he's trying to show the world who he is, and with a chip on his shoulder, and he went out there with confidence and executed.
Yeah. Give the kid all the credit in the world. He played very well. Bad pass interference call against them. That was a really good play. But this is a Pete Carroll special. We hear about the secondary as a weakness all off season, and I'm staying optimistic, trying to tell people this is Pete Carroll's area of expertise, right? And I think this is Pete Carroll coaching up the secondary as a whole. I think he did a good job of that, and the secondary played well yesterday, and Kai Kelly in particular.
Yeah, and I think that to go along with what you were saying before, there's a lot of coaches with Caillou Blue Kelly wouldn't have never gotten an opportunity to even play.
Yeah.
And he got the opportunity to compete in Pete Carroll's, and because he got that opportunity to compete, he has earned a role, and now he's playing well in that role. So hopefully that continues for him, for the Raiders. But I thought he was definitely one of our ballers. Another one I want to talk about is Devin White. Devin White came out there. He had 11 tackles. He executed well, stepped up when the Elandon Roberts went down, and he was an impact player in both in the run and in coverage.
I thought he was awesome. I thought Pratt was as well. I thought White was very physical. Very physical. Brought a physical element to the defense. Him and Pratt were outstanding. The defense played really well yesterday, and I've talked about us being a much better defense this season, and all the trouble we've had in years past on defense, and a lot of that was we've had really poor off the ball linebacker play. But between White, Pratt, and Adams, I thought they played at a very high level. And give Tommy Eichenberg credit too. I don't know that he made any splash plays, but he had to come in after the Roberts injury, and he played quite a bit at that middle linebacker spot, and he held up just fine. And more than anything, at that middle linebacker spot, I think he did a good job with the communication, and a lot of that's his responsibility, making sure we're lined up correctly and all those type of things. And there was no drop off from that aspect at all with the defense.
Yeah, Devin White had a 67.3 overall PFF grade, which was about top 30 in linebackers across the league this week. So hopefully he can continue that because he hasn't had a 11 tackle game since week 1 of 2023. So now that he's healthy, it'd be good to see him be able to perform the way that he's used to and capable of performing, because he's such a talented guy. The last couple of guys, let's talk about that defensive line.
Please.
Yes.
Please. No, I said please.
Oh, no, I think Keith, yes. Let's talk about that defensive line. And that defensive line was also was spectacular in the second half. Spectacular might be overstating, but they were very good. They were very good, and they made Drake may have a tough time. Why don't you go ahead and start them off?
Yeah, I want to start off by saying we stopped the run first, right?
Yes.
It's. I talked about in the preview. You have to earn the right to rush the passer. If you don't stop the run, you're not going to get those opportunities and obvious passing down. So first and foremost, we stopped the run. That's a credit to the entire front seven, the entire defense, but it starts up front. And then second half, we put a lot of pressure on May. Again, kept him in good containment, never hurt us with our legs. And Max was Max. He was Mad Max. He was very disruptive all game long, rushing from all different positions, different stunts, different games. We showed the Coon strip sack, Tyree Wilson with a sack. Look out for a Tyree Wilson breakout season. And Adam Butler's just that rock that never will get enough credit, does a lot of the dirty work, and is a damn good football player.
Yeah, Max was his typical Max self, and like you said, Tyree Wilson getting that sack. I think it's great to see him get a sack early in the season, because just for confidence. Sometimes we know that being a defensive lineman is more than just getting sacks, but when you do get those sacks, it makes you, that's what the fans want to see. That's what everyone wants. And then when you're doing that, then everyone thinks you're great, which makes you in turn feel great about yourself. Max Crosby was our highest graded defensive lineman, with about 70, almost a 75 grade. One person I did not mention, and I feel terrible for excluding him, because he had a terrific game as well in his role. That was Jamal Adams.
I thought you were going to say Booker. Yeah, Adams too, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. I jumped back to the linebackers. I'm sorry, but it stood out when I really looked it up. Jamal Adams. And again, PFF is not the end all be all. I get that, but they do have a set of criteria that they use to base their thought process on. Jamal Adams had a 90.9 grade, almost a 91 overall grade. That's good for second linebacker, best linebacker play in the entire league this week. He had a 92.5 pass rush grade, 72.3 run defensive grade, and a 77 coverage grade. All of which of those stats are top 10 linebacking grades for the week. So obviously he didn't play a ton of snaps and they used him in this very specific role, but he excelled in that role. And so I do want to take my hats off to Jamal Adams because he didn't have the splash plays, but he just played terrific that game. And then, as we mentioned earlier, with their pass rush win grades, Thomas Booker was him and Adam Butler were a problem in there. Again, neither got sacks, but they did cause pressures. They did speed up. They sped up Drake May, and they allowed Drake May not to be able to step up, which allows guys like Malcolm Kuntz to get the strip sacks and things like that. So that defense as a whole really played well. It's kind of hard to pick out a player who didn't play well on either side, really.
Yeah, it was a total team win. All three phases complemented each other well.
Yeah. Let's take us to third down, where we're going to talk about some areas where I think we need to see some improvement. I think the big area is offensive line play. Let's start with the running game. Obviously, the run game struggled. We only had 56 rushing yards for the game. We did get a little highlight out of Ashton Jeanty. Just get to see an Ashton Jeanty touchdown. That was cool. He did fight for that touchdown, as you can see here in this highlight, which is always great to see your top 6 pick have some be able to get in the end zone. But I think overall they struggled. An interesting stat that I saw for Ashton Jeanty was that he had only 38 yards for the game, and he had 44 yards after contact. So he had more yards after contact than he had total in the game, and that's because he lost so many yards, especially in those last 4 minutes when we were trying to salt away the game. But again, getting yards after contact, that's what that guy does. But hopefully we can get him some running room before the contact hits. I think I saw a stat where he was the third worst with yards before contact, where he was only getting about 0.3 yards before he was getting hit. I mean, he's not even getting a yard after and before his defensive player was touching him last game on average, which is obviously an issue. Now, I thought that they started the game running the ball really well, and I'm not sure what exactly changed. Maybe the Patriots put a little bit more emphasis on stopping the run. They do have some good defensive linemen. And part of the reason that maybe Geno excelled so much is because they were trying to make sure that they were stopping the run. Mike Vrabel is a Bill Belichick disciple, and Bill Belichick was always known for trying to take something away from you, and they obviously worked hard to try to take the run game away from the Raiders, and successfully. But unfortunately for them, Geno went out there and torched them because of it. So while it's an area of concern for me, we do have to get better in that area. I do anticipate that happening.
Yeah, me too. The run blocking wasn't good enough. I mean, some of those numbers are skewed. He had those last couple of possessions. He probably had 5, 6, I don't know, maybe 7 carries at the end of the game where everyone and their mother knew he was getting the ball, and the Patriots were just trying to kill out the clock, and they're selling out to stop their run. So I think that was a little skewed, but we just got to give him a chance, because I thought he actually really flashed his physicality and how hard he runs whenever he got any sliver of daylight. He's running through tackles. He's making the first guy miss. You saw it on the touchdown run. Perfect example. I mean, that was tough sledding. That was a tough, hard run. To me, that's just a thing where, we have to, Pete Carroll talked about it a little bit today. We just have to get better coordinated on the line. And that goes for the tight ends as well, and the wide receivers contributing, and just all being on the same page of how we attack these blocks and how we work the double teams and work to the second level and all that. And, they just have to iron out the kinks. And I have all the confidence in the world they will. And then when they do, and you give Jeanty opportunity, the kid's a stud.
Absolutely. And we just, that offensive line's got to grow together. Dylan Parham gave up 5 pressures and a hit on the quarterback. JPJ gave up a sack, 3 pressures. DJ Glaze gave up 3 pressures himself. That's, that battery, you had Jordan Meredith only give up 1 pressure, and Colton Miller was a stud with 0 pressures and a 90.2 pass blocking grade. So between Parham, JPJ, and Glaze, those guys got to grow up. Dylan Parham's in his 4th year, so he's got to be a little bit more, play a little bit better, communicate a little bit better, especially on the stunts and the blitzes. Obviously, that gave the Raiders a lot of trouble in the first half. It was a little better in the second half, but again, the run game was not able to get going, which is was part of the problem with this same group of guys last year. So we're hoping that with better scheme and a better running back there, and the maturation of that group, that we'd be a little bit more effective with the run game. Unfortunately, we haven't seen it yet, but I am confident that it's going to happen as we continue on the season.
Me too. And it's not, we didn't force the issue too. Maybe if we stayed more run heavy, maybe we would have eventually had more success in the fourth quarter. But to Chip Kelly's credit, we're struggling to get in the running game going, and the passing game's clicking, and we went pass heavy, especially in the second half, and the results speak for themselves.
Absolutely. Do you have any other areas other than that offensive line of concern that that you want to, that maybe stuck out to you a little bit?
The only other thing I would maybe mention is, and of course, some of them, as they always will be, were questionable, but too many penalties.
Yeah.
Have to tighten up the penalties a little bit. We had 9 penalties, so just tighten that up a little bit. Some of them are going to be out of your control, but the ones you can control, got to keep them down to the bare minimum.
Yeah, the pre-snap penalties have to go. But the fun thing about that is it looks like we finally have an offense that can overcome penalties. Usually, we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years where if you got a holding penalty, you might as well punt the ball. The drive's over. Now we got an offense where, hey, okay, 3rd and 20, no problem. We'll just chuck that thing down there to Dante Thornton. We'll get it done.
Yeah.
So that being that explosive does cause problems for defenses. So I'm excited to see how that offense continues to grow, especially with all those weapons they have and the confidence in Geno Smith has and all those guys. That takes us to 4th down. 4th down. Let's get to your questions, the fan questions. What we got first what's first on the docket here? All right, this first one from Doc out in Ontario, Canada. It says, how long will it take for the running game to get going? I'll let you take that one, Rocco.
I'm going to say not long. Of course, I'm going to say that. But I'll give you one reason for that. I think there's many reasons, but the one reason I'll give you here is Geno Smith just threw for, 326 yards?
Don't short check my man, 362.
Was it 362? I got my numbers back. Yeah, I don't want to say. Yeah. Geno having a game like that, our weapons having a game like that, really hurting a team through the air. I believe we had 9 plays of over 20 yards. That was the most in the league yesterday, up until, I don't know, the Sunday night game, which was insanity. There's a lot of 20-plus yard plays in that game as well. So anyways, my point is having success in the passing game the way we did yesterday is going to go a long way to help loosening up the run defenses we see.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to load the box when you got guys throwing the ball all over you, and eventually, I think that those lighter boxes are going to give this offensive line a little bit more opportunity. I agree with you. Plus, they'll get better. They'll get better with their combination box. They'll get better with their timing. They'll get better with their communication. And Ash and Jeanty will get better. They'll get better to work together with the running back and the offensive line. You know, they have to read each other. It's not just, hey, you run up the A gap. There's a timing that goes along between the running, getting the handoff, and how quickly they hit the holes and things like that. That takes time. So, while I don't expect him to continuously run for 2 yards a carry, maybe a while before he's running for 150, 170 yards like you saw King James do on Sunday Night Football. All right, question number 2, what we got? This one's from Raider Ray down in Miami, actually. We got, Miami downtown. We got was Ash and Jeanty worth the first-round pick? Boy, I tell you, this overreaction Monday, isn't it? The guy runs for less than 40 yards, and all of a sudden he's not even worth the pick.
I didn't think overreaction Monday was a thing after a win. It happens after a win too. Yeah, 100% was worth the first round pick. What did we pick him? What was it? 6,000%. Just come ask me that in 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look, he didn't have a great game statistically. We know that. The Patriots didn't want to allow him to do that, but his impact on the game was incredible. Geno Smith, and again, I don't want to take anything away from our wide receivers and take anything away from Geno and stuff like that, but they got those type of coverages and those opportunities because the Patriots were worried about Ash and Jeanty and not letting him dominate the game. So while yes, I'd love to see him run for one, be able to tell the rest of the league, hey, we told you so. We have a generational talent. You should have picked him. Now you have to deal with them for the next 10 years. Yeah, we'd love to say that after week 1, but that doesn't mean that he didn't have an impact, and his impact was not worth the first-round pick. So don't overreact, Raider Ray. It's going to be all right. Jeanty's going to get it done. All right. Next question here. We got from. Here we go. We got from the good doc. It says here, does the soft coverages by our cornerback concern you? The soft coverages concern you?
I'm going to hate to see the questions after a loss, man. No. What am I supposed to say? No. Yeah, I mean, were some of the zones a little softer than you like, and we didn't challenge, the receivers on some of them as much as you would like? Sure, but we also kept everything in front of us. We didn't give up any big plays, and I don't know in the second half that the coverage was all that soft at all. Maybe that applies to the first half. As I said, first half felt like a little more bend but don't break, which quite frankly was effective enough. You gave up 10 points in the first half, and we almost pitched a shutout in the second half. I don't think there was anything soft about the coverage in the second half.
Yeah, I think that there, when we refer to soft coverages, I think that there's maybe when the situation doesn't seem like they're sitting off too much or whatever the case may be. And I think that's a lot of times that's an error by the corner. Sometimes that's an error by the call. But I think overall, like you said, I thought they were competing. As we alluded earlier, Caillou Blue Kelly only had 1.9 yards of separation for the game. So that's not too soft. So I don't think it's too much concern. I think if anything, I thought these cornerbacks and the whole secondary overachieved what I personally thought they were going to do, and that's credit to Pete Carroll and the confidence that he has and what he's seen from these young cornerbacks throughout camp and through the preseason. So, and it's calm down a little bit, relax. We got to win, like you said. Let's there's all the areas we can improve on, but let's calm it down on that one. I think the soft coverage might be a little bit, and again, overreaction Monday. Last question. This one's from D-Man out in Vegas. It says here, can the passing game have this success week in and week out?
I don't know if we're going to average 362 yards a game. I hope so. I think the passing game will be effective week in and week out. Yes. I think there's going to be times where we're more run heavy. That running game will come along. I have no doubt. And every game plays out differently. So, when you say success, I don't know if you're looking for 362 yards every week. That's probably not realistic. Although I wouldn't doubt we'll have games with this type of yardage again, and probably often. But as far as will it be a successful passing attack week in and week out, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you said it well. I think we'll be efficient. Because that's that's proof in the pudding. That's what we've seen out of Geno Smith, and that's what we've seen out of Chip Kelly. Everybody who's involved in that offense, we've seen a sustained level of success. Whether it's the Brock Bowers and the Jakobi Meyers, whether you're talking about the guy calling the plays or the quarterback that's pulling the trigger. These guys have had sustained success. So I would assume that you're going to have a successful passing game. Now, are there going to be games where he only throws for 150 and throws multiple interceptions? Sure, that happens. But I think, those games are going to occur. But I think overall, you can expect to have an effective passing game, and especially as that running game, that passing game is going to become more and more lethal. Maybe not with as many yards, but with effectiveness. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up another episode of the Silver and BlackCast. We will be back on Thursday with our pregame view of the Chargers for Monday night. Big game, big divisional game, and we got all the news and information coming for you guys there. So log in, smash that like and subscribe button, and come back part of the family, guys. Remember, win, lose, or tie, Raider Nation till we die. Just win, baby.
Victory Monday.
Victory.